Hi, I'm Lacey Filipich, founder of Money School and Maker Kids. Thanks for joining me for today for this video. This is the second one in my series about Maker Kids and where it came from. In the first video, I told you a little bit about my experience meeting some kidpreneurs and my personal experience of being a kidpreneur myself when I was 10 years old. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about some of the kidpreneurs that I've met through my work with Money School and through my kidpreneur program, Maker Kids. First one I'd like to tell you a little bit about is Ash. Ash was 10 years old when she started her business. She's now 11. And I came to learn about her through her mum, Kat. Kat is one of my clients through Money School and had done my Achieving Financial Independence course. And as she was working through the course with her children, Ash won a competition. She was waving a sign for Weet-Bix at the cricket and she won $1,000, which is pretty amazing for a 10-year-old. But because they'd been going through the program, rather than immediately throw it in the bank or spend some of it, Ash had started thinking about ways that she could maybe make some more money with that money. And one of the ideas she came up with was starting her own business. And her mission with that business was not just to have a business, but also to donate some of her profits to a cause that she cares about. And her particular cause is helping kids overseas get books in their local languages. Ash is an avid reader. You can barely get her out of a book. And she was really sad when she learned that some kids don't get access to books in their own language, and so they don't learn to read purely because there's nothing for them to read. So she decided that she wanted to donate part of her profits to that. With regards to which business she chose, well, one of her jobs for her family, and they're quite a creative family, her job is to make lip balm for the family. And she'd been doing that for about a year. She'd found a recipe online and she thought, oh, I could maybe market my lip balm. It's pretty impressive lip balm, I have to say. It's the only one I use now. And it's impressive because it's all natural. It's made from beeswax, olive oil, and then some essential oils to put in the flavouring. And because of the beeswax, it really stays on your lips. So it's blown me away compared to all the other ones I've tried from all the other major stores, and you've probably tried many too. This lip balm stays on your lips. It's amazing. So she went through the process of ordering her little pink cases for her lip balm and having to make big batches of it, and then went through the process of a launch. And as a result, she's actually become quite famous. Her videos on the news have reached nearly 1 million views. She's getting orders from the eastern states and locally, and very soon she'll be hitting her target of raising enough money to fund one of these books, and that's $1,300 that she needs to do that. To make that $1,300, she has to sell $6,500 worth of lip balm, and she's nearly at her target, and she only launched 4 months ago. So pretty impressive stuff. And I've spent some time with Ash as a result of this, particularly because she's the young lady who invited me to come along to her book club, which is where I started learning about the kidpreneurs that were around Perth. And I've helped her develop her business plan. We've talked a little bit about what she's going to do next. And she's really keen to keep producing this lip balm and marketing that, and keep supporting the kids overseas and keep publishing books for them. So an amazing story and quite a success, and probably the most successful kidpreneur I've seen recently, and a lot of that is to do with the publicity that she's managed to get, getting help from people on the news and on the radio. So the next one I'd like to talk to you about is Stella. Stella is 10 years old, and her mum makes origami cranes, which are amazing and beautiful, and they're designed to inspire people. And when her mum Mel came home and said, hey Stella, would you like to be involved in a kidpreneur showcase? Stella said, yeah, I'd love to. I think I'll make cupcakes. And her mum said, oh, come on Stella, I think you could maybe think of something a little bit more creative. There's a lot of people who do cupcakes. And Stella went away and thought about it. And she came back and said to her mum, Mum, I've got the answer. I know what I want to do. I want to create affirmation cards for kids. And that's what she's done, and she's created a brand called Little Bursts of Happiness. Now that came about because Stella went through a really rough time last year. You know, typical 9 or 10-year-old girl, they go through some pretty big ups and downs and hormone changes. And she wasn't in a very happy mood very often, and so her mum said, this is enough, we're going to sit down. And she wrote out a set of affirmations. And these affirmations are called My Mummy's Affirmations. And Stella reads them every morning before going to school, and she reads them out loud, and her mum walks past her bedroom and can hear her doing that. And the result of that is that Stella is like a new girl. She has been positive, and she has been uplifted, and she has been an action taker, and it's a complete turnabout from where she was. And Stella puts that down to these affirmations, and I have them here today. This is one of the products that Stella created. Now, you might have trouble reading it, but I now use these with my 4-year-old daughter. They're just gorgeous. Things like, I am smart, I am courageous, I am kind, I have integrity, I will not let fear stop me. So from having read that out, Stella thought, wouldn't it be great if other kids had the opportunity to have those affirmations as well? So she created that one printed page. She also created a set of cards. They're about this big, and unfortunately I've given all mine away, so I haven't got them here to show you. But each of those cards, there's 31 of them, so that every day of the month you can pull out a new one, has an affirmation on it and kids can read it. And they're for kids. There's no wishy-washy stuff in there. It's stuff like, today is a chocolate day, or I am loved. Very simple, very sweet, but very empowering as well. And through that process of creating those cards, Stella participated in the showcase, sold out of all her stock because it was gorgeous, and now is supplying to, I think it's Collab in Fremantle in Western Australia where we live. So she now has a line in a shop in Fremantle. And she's made hundreds of dollars doing this, which is pretty amazing. And it's something that she loves, and it doesn't take up much of her time now. She's just now thinking about what she's going to add. So that's Stella, another wonderful example of a kid taking something that they've already got experience with and turning it into something that they can sell to other people and thinking about how they can help the world. So that's a bit about Stella. Next, I want to tell you a little bit about Emma. Emma is our lemonade girl. So at the time of the Kidpreneurs Showcase, she was 6 years old, she's now 7, and her mother Tennille and her father had helped her convert an old sewing table into a portable lemonade stall. And so when she decided to participate in the Kidpreneurs Showcase, she'd actually already run that stall once. And the reason why she decided to make lemonade, first of all, she wanted some of her own money. She had seen her parents who run a food truck and seen how business worked, and she decided she wanted to be a part of that. They also had a superfluous amount of lemons, which is a common problem in Perth. We seem to have a lot of lemons. And so she worked with her father, who has the food truck, to make lemonade, and all under a commercial license, which is important if you're going to do anything with food. And she came to the Kidpreneur Showcase and sold 34 glasses of lemonade at $3 each. And after costs, she got a little bit over $90. So not bad for a 6-year-old in one day of work. Well, let's put it this way, 3 hours of work. That's not a bad hourly rate. She has since been booked for functions. People saw her story and thought, oh, how fantastic. And she is now catered at functions. And you can just imagine this 7-year-old girl turning up with this lemonade stand, which is absolutely delightful. She is the consummate professional. She is excellent at sales. And she's learned that all by going through this process after watching her parents run their food truck. So amazing child. I'm sure she's going to be going on to bigger and better things in the future as well. So another example of someone who I guess is providing more of a a consumer demand product, and that needs to be in the place they're at. They can't have an outlet in a store, but still, what an amazing experience. So those are 3 of the girls that I've come across through the Kidpreneur Showcase experience and that have inspired me to create this program. A lot of the questions that I get from parents are about, well, what about my child? My child isn't interested in creating anything, or short attention span, or what if they fail? Won't that be bad for them? And in that case, I'd like to tell you the story of Jake and the story of Zane. So Jake is another child who decided to participate in the showcase. He's 8 years old and he started a business called Green Leaf Co. And his business was selling seedlings. Now, he did a fantastic job at the showcase. He got orders from people afterwards as well. He made about $50 on the day of people buying his seedlings and buying his succulents. And his first order was actually from his grandmother for $100 worth of succulents for her new property. And he loved that idea because he learned that you could take a leaf off a succulent and it would strike in the ground if you had the right conditions. You didn't have to buy seeds or new plants. So that was great. And he used recycled materials. He did some amazing stuff. He was very innovative. We ran the showcase in November, and in December, of course, is school holidays in Australia, so it's about a month later. And he realised that he didn't really want to be working all holiday long. He didn't want to be out planting all the time and be outside selling on the weekends. So he decided to put his business on hold. Now, he only ran that business for about a month. The total cost to get it started was the cost of some business cards that his mother gave him, and the time and energy that it took to run around, I guess, loading up all the plants and selling them and that kind of thing. that's great. It's not a huge impact, but it still takes some time. But he realised that about himself, that he didn't want to spend the time doing that. But what an incredible experience for an 8-year-old to have. He's already successfully run his own business. He already knows how it works. He knows the energy that's required and how much time commitment is involved. So he now has some knowledge about whether he's going to want to do that again, which is pretty extraordinary. So even these kids that just go through the process once and they just run the business for a small period of time, they've still had an exceptional experience. They've still had a really rich learning about what is involved in the problem solving around businesses. And that takes me to the story of Zane. Zane was one of the other members of the book club, and he decided to make wood art, and this came about because his mother had bought him this beautiful piece of wood that it had his baby photo embossed on it, and he used Mod Podge, this glue, to put that on there. And he'd had the idea of creating similar products. He decided he wanted to be a part of the showcase, and so in quite a rush he made some Christmas decorations on wood. Now on the day he didn't have a great time because he didn't sell very much. And we were talking about it afterwards and trying to understand what went wrong. And effectively, he was either asking too much or he had too many of his product. So he was selling blocks of wood about yay big with prints of snowmen and that kind of thing for Christmas on them, and painting. And he had priced them at between $5 and $8 each. And of course, when you're competing with decorations from other places, you've got to either price cheap and have lots of them, or you've just got to make them a piece of art and just have one or two. And he had a table that was full of many of the same thing and was pricing them quite high. The advantage of him having gone through this process though now is that he understands why pricing is so important and understanding how to meet the market. And the other interesting thing that came about it is that he had an example, the example that he'd got from his mother of his baby photo and one he'd created. And he got several people coming up and asking to order that, and those were worth $30 each, of course, because they're specialised. So instead of selling something for $1 or $2, he could now sell this product for $30. So a really interesting experience, even though he didn't have a great time on the day, and he was wondering afterwards what he'd done wrong. When he was able to sit down and think about it, he learned some really valuable lessons, and they will take him through whatever area of his life he chooses to work in. And I had the same experience when I was 10 years old, did my hair wrap stall, had 4 of us on the stall plus me. We all took turns and we worked all day, and we raised $300, which was fantastic after costs. And then the school told us that of course that was a donation to the school. That was the point of the school fete, and that was why they let us run the stall. We were the first students ever to run a stall, so we didn't actually know that we were expected to give the money in, and I hadn't thought to ask. So very disappointing for me, of course, to have made all that money and then have to hand it over. Next year, we solved that problem. We paid ourselves wages first. And the following year, we did clay models instead of doing hair wrap. So we tried some different things, but that's the point, that you learn from the process. And it's a great experience for these kids. All of them now have some understanding about handling money, about pricing, about talking with customers. And I'll include another separate segment later that'll tell you a little bit about Ben and Holly, my favourite marketers of all time. They're 9 and 7. Okay, so that's a little bit about the kidpreneurs that I've met through this process and what they've done. Hopefully out of that you've got some inspiration, and if you're a child watching this, hopefully you're now thinking about what you could be doing as a business idea. And that, I guess, is what we're aiming to do with our kidpreneur program, is take people through a process. So if you've started to think about an idea, join me for the next video. I'll talk through the process that we go through with the kidpreneurs to make them maker kids, to help them get to the end goal of actually starting their business, and then about learning from it. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you on the next video.